Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking, and this is how it happened. This is how the Arkham series died. I say that because this week I'm looking at the finale of Rocksteady's iconic Batman series, Batman Arkham Knight, released on June 23rd, 2015. Like Arkham City, development on Arkham Knight began during the development of the previous game, though their ambitions led to a longer development time, hence the existence of Arkham Origins. The advertising for Arkham Knight was heavily focused on a small number of subjects. 1. Fans would finally be able to explore a fully developed open-world Gotham City. 2. Scarecrow was finally resurfacing to get revenge on Batman, and he's bringing all the iconic rogues with him. 3. There's a wholly new and original villain being brought into the mix, the titular Arkham Knight. And 4, of course, is that fans would be able to speed around in the Batmobile. One extra feature that was heavily advertised were the pre-order bonuses, a side story that would allow players to play as Harley Quinn, yes please, and another side story that would allow the player to play as Red Hood, yes please. I will be briefly going over these along with the other DLC stories that were released afterwards that focus on Batgirl, Nightwing, Catwoman, and Robin. And I will be doing them in the chronological order in which they occur in the universe, not when they were released. I've been dropping not so subtle hints about my stance on this beautiful looking game, so let's see if I can substantiate my claims as we give it everything we've got! The first thing on the agenda isn't a matter of Batman, it's a matter of Batgirl, as her DLC story, A Matter of Family, focuses on Barbara Gordon pre-paralysis exploring an oil rig turned amusement park, sounds safe, with Tim Drake Robin in an effort to find the Joker and Harley Quinn as they have taken Commissioner Gordon hostage. There's also a fun Starro cameo before most people really cared about the character. This DLC also features Harley in her awful animated series outfit, and that is a hill I will die laughing on. This is the most open of the DLC stories, and it's one of the most fun ones too, even if the Arkham Batgirl suit always looked a little jank to me. The next order of business is even less Batman related as we jump ahead to Harley Quinn's DLC story, which takes place a few days before the events of the main game, as Miss Quinzel breaks into Bloodhaven PD to rescue Poison Ivy and fight that Dick Grayson. Of all the DLC stories, this one is probably my favorite, and no, not just for that reason, though it doesn't hurt. All the characters you get to play as have their gameplay slightly tweaked to fit them, but Harley's is really the only one that requires a whole new thought process to play effectively. Instead of detective mode, she has psychosis mode, which basically works the same way but occasionally leads to the sane Harleen side trying to convince the insane Harley side to quit what she's doing. But they don't use that to build a story in the main game because that would just be good storytelling, which, as you'll come to see, this game is allergic to. Possibly the biggest and most challenging change is that Harley is incapable of silent takedowns because, as she tells Penguin, quiet isn't in her vocabulary. But to assist in the lack of stealth, each takedown will help charge up Mayhem mode, which allows for instant takedowns of any enemies you hit while active. It's such a fun twist on the standard gameplay that I really wish they did more with it, much like Harley herself. But with Ivy freed, we're finally able to get into the actual game in the title of the video. The game opens with Frank Sinatra's I've Got You Under My Skin playing as Joker is set to get cremated, with the first button prompt of the game being to burn the Joker. And then we get possibly the worst opening line in gaming history.
This is how it happened. This is how the Batman died.
This is the only Rocksteady Arkham game that Paul Dini didn't write, and the writers decided to show just how much they relied on Paul Dini by spoiling their own fucking game in the first line of spoken dialogue. Imagine if Arkham City opened with "This is how it happened. This is how the Joker died." Or if Avengers Endgame opened with "This is how it happened. This is how Iron Man died." Ding dong, writers! There's this technique in writing called storytelling. Use it! Continuing this Batman video and game that still hasn't seen Batman yet, we follow police officer Owens on Mischief Night as he confronts someone smoking in a diner. See, kids, this is why you don't smoke. You get turned into a weird flesh zombie that then turns everyone else in the immediate vicinity into the exact same flesh zombie.
Tomorrow, this will seem like child's play. Gotham, this is your only warning.
Are Gotham citizens really not used to a supervillain threatening to murder them yet? Batman's been around for, what, 12 years now, and none of them have faith that he'll stop Scarecrow? As you've probably noticed, Scarecrow's face and voice are a lot different now thanks to his unwanted makeover from Killer Croc. He got plastic surgery on his face so it would resemble his mask and is now voiced by John Noble, who has been in The Lord of the Rings, Fringe, The Boys, The Blacklist, L.A. Noire, Legends of Tomorrow, and more. And while it does upset me that Dino Andrade didn't get to reprise his role, I can't see his voice working for this more calm and sinister interpretation of the character. And getting a good voice for Scarecrow was important because talking is 90% of what he does throughout the entire game. With the city evacuated, leaving only criminals behind, there's one line that really defines one of the core problems with this game.
Tonight, Gotham's relying on one man to save us all.
You'll see what I mean later. For now, we finally reunite with Batman and his now weirdly giant face as he glides towards GCPD. The gliding feels so much better from the already solid city and origins, which is one thing I cannot fault this game for. The gameplay is almost perfect. Batface meets with Commissioner Gordon, who had a real glow up in the 10 months since we saw him last. He's also now voiced by Jonathan Banks, most well known for his role as Mike Ehrmantraut in Breaking Bad. Fun fact, he most recently voiced Black Mask in the Catwoman anime movie Catwoman Hunted, which stars Jade from Victorious as Selena Kyle. And you know what? That fits. Anyway, back to less interesting things. Gordon asks if the crazy man with a sack face is crazy enough to explode a chemical bomb, and the stupidity of that question is interrupted by a police dispatch about a missing patrol car. Batman leaves to check on that, but not before a very important Bat Skype call with Oracle, now voiced by Ashley Greene, who played Alice Cullen in the Twilight movies and appeared in an episode of Hell's Kitchen. So that's fun. What's not fun is Bat Skype. It is how Batman will almost always communicate with his allies, and it completely pauses any form of gameplay so you can stare at their grayscale character models, and it happens all the time! Batman heads to the scene of the missing patrol car, giving us our first taste of this final evolution of Batman's combat. Batman is out of fucks to give, so every hit hits harder and feels somehow even smoother than City. There's also some added mechanics like picking up weapons to use, and they carried over the grading system from Origins. After saving the cop from a military vehicle, we're introduced to the biggest albatross in the series. Batman Arkham Knight should really be called Batman Be Careful What You Wish For, because everyone wanted the Batmobile, and everyone regretted that decision by the time the credits were rolling. And those come like 10 hours after the regret sinks in. For now though, it's a lot of fun to drive around in thanks to the extra large streets and destructible environment intentionally designed around it. Though Batman definitely murders a lot of people by ramming into them with a massive armored tank. I don't care that they get electrocuted and tossed aside, because getting shocked so hard you fly across the fucking street is still deadly. Interrogating the driver of the vehicle brings Batman to a penthouse penthousing a group of militia men keeping Poison Ivy captive, who is looking a lot different. Man, what happened to these people in the last 10 months? Freeing Poison Ivy is rewarded with story time, as Ivy reveals that it took this long for a villain to realize that the best way to defeat Batman is for all of them to work together. I get that the idea is that Joker was the wild card preventing them from working cohesively, but like, then do your plan without him? The only difference between doing it now and doing it when Joker was still alive is that you wouldn't have Harley in on it, but she does fuck all in this game anyway, so it would barely change at all. Oh, I miss you, Paul Dini. As Batman tries to bring Ivy to GCPD lockup, begging the question of where all the supervillains are held after the shutdown of Blackgate, Arkham Asylum, and Arkham City, but whatever, we are introduced to by far the worst aspect of the game.
60mm cannon operational.
The Bat Tank. Because the vigilante who swore to never kill and never use guns, the very thing that took his parents' lives, would definitely program his armored car to transform into an impenetrable tank decked out with enough high-powered weaponry for a whole small army. The enemy tanks are unmanned, so Batman has free reign to destroy them, and these fucking tank fights are ever present from this point forward. The game director is quoted as saying, "We didn't want it to be like, okay, the Batmobile is so good, I'll just stay in it all the time." So then why the fuck did they design 95% of the gameplay to require the fucking thing! And these tank fights aren't even hard. The enemy's projectile paths are revealed like 3 to 5 seconds before they actually launch, giving you plenty of time to get out of the way. Focus on hitting the tops of them and you'll breeze through them with ease. Smashing them and locking up Ivy and GCPD treats us to one of the few aspects of this game that I like. The game is paced with side quests in mind, so there will be moments where the main storyline gets paused and allows Batman to focus on the side quests for a while, or continue with the main story if they want to. As Oracle does her computer thing, the first 3 side quests we're introduced to are The Line of Duty, The Perfect Crime, and Riddler's Revenge. The Line of Duty sees Batman scouring the city for the Station 17 firefighters. Their appearances are tied to main story progress, so you can't just find all of them right away. While rescuing them, Batman learns that the chief was paying Firefly to burn abandoned buildings to prove firefighters were still needed as they were on the chopping block. In The Perfect Crime, Batman finds strung up bodies across the city, easily located by following the eerie opera music. They all have insulting adjectives painted near them, like if Charlotte from Charlotte's Web was an asshole, and analyzing their imperfections to identify the bodies leads to the discovery that they all went missing near the traveling circus of Strange, bringing Batman face to face with Laszlo Valentine, aka Professor Pig, probably the most obscure villain to appear in this series, though he has gone on to appear in Gotham and Batwoman. Okay, how do we get back on track? Scarecrow, say something cool.
Remnants of Gotham, I have messages for you all. To the vandals who stayed behind to pick the still warm flesh from Gotham's bones, have your fun. You are under my protection. To the cowards quaking behind the police department's walls, you will not be spared. And to Batman, I have already won. Emptied your city with a vial of toxin and a few threatening words. That's how little the safety you provided was worth. And when the dawn comes, when Gotham lies in ruin and I turn my gaze to the world beyond, the legend of the Batman will be worth nothing at all.
Thank you. Also, I did not forget to go over Riddler's Revenge. I will be doing that at a later point, and if you've played this game before, you understand. Batman heads to Oracle's base in the Clock Tower. Your guess is as good as mine as for why it isn't the Batcave, to analyze a sample of Scarecrow's fear toxin they got. But in order to trace where it was made, Batman has to repurpose an antenna. Man, can Batman go one game without needing to become an amateur electrician?
Bruce, I spoke to Dad. I hate lying to him. He'd kill me if he knew I was still in the city. He still blames himself for this.
Oh, I'm sure that won't be annoying and important later. Also, Barbara, why are you wearing a tank top and short shorts in October? Anyway, what will become a recurring trend in this game is seemingly simple tasks becoming needlessly complicated in a roundabout way to get the Batmobile involved. So, in order to turn on a movie studio antenna, he has to retrieve a power winch for the Batmobile from Lucius Fox, his first appearance in these games, drive the Batmobile on top of a glass train station, perform tank platforming across the rooftops, then pull the car up the side of a wall and use the same winch to charge the antenna. With it charging, Batman gets a Skype call from Robin in the first instance of Batman being a total dick to his allies for no fucking reason and denying their help at every turn. But Batman's work isn't done yet, as they needed a microwave antenna before they can triangulate the position, 3 points and all that, and Scarecrow's men are guarding it for some reason. So let me get this straight. They knew Batman would analyze the fear toxin they didn't know he had, figure out how to trace it, need a microwave tower, and just so happened to pick that one. He manages to take out 2 of them, but the other 3 aren't budging, so he asks Lucius to send him something that will make him faster, which comes in the form of a new Batsuit. And Bruce Wayne clearly had a few meetings with Tony Stark. The main upgrade that comes with this suit is the Fear Multi-Takedown, allowing for 3 instant takedowns of clustered enemies as long as they don't know you're there. It can also be upgraded to allow you to take down up to 5 enemies. Speaking of upgrades, somehow the upgrade menu got worse! It's now split into Batsuit, Batmobile, Batmobile weapons, combat, gadget tech, and gadget skills, and uses the Origins approach of requiring you to unlock certain upgrades in order to get access to the ones you actually want. But now, it's not just get an upgrade point and then get an upgrade, because that was too simple. Now, everything costs a different amount of upgrade points, because that's what everyone wants in their video game. Math! Batman figures out that Scarecrow is making his fear toxin at Ace Chemicals. Why that wasn't the first place he checked, I have no idea. Expect me to say something very similar to that towards the end of the video. And it's here where Batman has his first encounter with the Arkham Knight.
Time to die, old man.
In death, he has nothing left to fear. Keep him away from Ace Chemicals. Your vengeance will come.
Prepare to see a character with all the intrigue and potential in the world slowly lose all of that over the course of this game through a series of awfully written events. He's already off to a bad start. They make it very clear that the Arkham Knight has a deep personal hatred for Batman and knows absolutely everything about him, including that he doesn't kill. So why are the tanks unmanned? If the Arkham Knight just put actual soldiers in each of those tanks, Batman wouldn't be able to destroy them with the Bat Tank.
Think, Mark!
Anyway, as Arkham games tend to go, you would expect Ace Chemicals to be the first of this game's explorable interiors. And you'd be wrong! There are occasional moments where you go inside someplace, but you're mostly just driving around in the fucking Batmobile because of course you are. Batman saves the Ace Chemicals crew members that aren't dead and learns that Scarecrow's chemical bomb can coat the entire East Coast if not stopped.
She's right. We're a team. This city needs both of us.
I can handle it, Robin. I've told you what you have to do. Now do it.
This can wait.
No, it can't.
As Batman is escorting the final crew member out, he is attacked by a helicopter that is also unmanned. Arkham Knight, you moron! This is the first of this game's plethora of disappointing pseudo-boss fights. It's just Batman bullet hell because that's what people asked for. As he ventures into the central mixing chamber, he comes across the first medic enemy. They will revive other militia members mid-fight and later electrify enemies. They can also revive enemies in Predator encounters, so taking them out should always be the priority. Real quick, I want to mention one of my biggest problems with this game. Scarecrow's motive. For some reason, he personally blames Batman and Batman alone for his disfigurement. So it's Batman's fault that Crane chose to go down into the sewers where Killer Croc is known to reside. It's Batman's fault that he got dangerously close to the water. It's Batman's fault that Killer Croc snatched him up and swam away after Batman tried to stop him. He didn't have to blame it all on Batman. His motive could have just been that he was driven to total insanity after his run-in with Croc and was no longer satisfied with just bringing out people's fears. He wanted to destroy Gotham City and Batman along with it. Making him blame Batman makes no sense since none of Batman's direct actions led to what happened to him. But hey, at least we get to see Sackboy in person for the first time, and my god is that design fantastic. Shane only can see it like 4 or 5 times throughout the whole game. Oh, and remember when I mentioned how weird it was that Oracle's base of operations wasn't in the Batcave, the much safer location not in the midst of an evacuated city turned war zone? Well, the reason for that is so that they could have the Arkham Knight capture her. A sign of true good storytelling is when things have to be set up in completely nonsense ways to set up plot points later on. Batman is too slow to catch up to a man with one good leg and is left behind to do what he can to lower the blast radius of the bomb by slowly carrying a couple canisters.
Miss me?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Before we get any follow-up on that travesty, we cut to some time prior as Gordon arrives at the Panessa Movie Studios, which Batman has turned into a prison, now housing regular school teacher Henry Adams, big meaty boxer man Albert King, Johnny Charisma, which is very much the Johnny Wrestling of singer names, and crazy obsessed office lady Christina Bell.
Batman.
Why is this game sometimes treated like a cheap horror game? Batman reveals that the 4 of them are the only 4 people they failed to save from Joker's blood that he sent out in Arkham City, and now they're turning into the Joker. Which, in case you forgot, isn't how his blood worked! In Arkham City, his blood was essentially just poison. Remember the whole Batman is very quickly marching towards Heaven's Gate thing? But all of a sudden now it's altering their minds and bodies by imbuing them with different aspects of the Joker? How in the ever-loving fuck does that make any sense? Batman calls it a mutated form of Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, but the only thing consistent between them is personality changes. Why even bother comparing it to a real thing at that point if you're going to remove all of the other symptoms in favor of permanent white face and green hair? Anyway, Christina Bell has Joker's Batman obsession, Johnny Charisma has his flair for dramatics, Albert King has his, ruthless aggression, I guess, and Henry Adams is seemingly immune. There's also a fifth infected that hasn't arrived yet, and with this one camera shot you can immediately figure out who it is without using any brain power. And yes, I know it makes no sense. We'll get there! Alright, moving on. Oh god. Get ready for a lot of this because Joker will now be accompanying Batman for the entire rest of the game in the form of a fear toxin-induced hallucination.
Can't I just have a break? Can't I just have one break?
On one hand, it's a cool surprise since Mark Hamill had said he was retiring from the role after City. On the other hand, in the one Arkham game where Joker is dead, he's more prevalent than ever! Oh, and this is more stupid than you probably know. In the novelization of Arkham Knight, it's revealed that Scarecrow knows Batman is hallucinating the Joker since Joker reached out to Scarecrow while he was still alive and got him to modify his fear toxin to make Batman see the Joker. But if that's the case, shouldn't everyone be seeing the Joker? How does Scarecrow create a formula that would affect one person drastically different from everyone else? As Batman escapes and tells Gordon about his daughter's 100% avoidable kidnapping, Alfred provides a breakdown of the militia forces, which you can choose to deal with at your own pace. More will be added as the game goes on, so it's best to take care of as much as you can as soon as you can to keep things manageable. Oh yeah, I haven't gone over this map yet. Gotham City is split into 3 different islands. Bleak Island, the only one accessible right now, Miagani Island, and Founders Island, the militia stronghold. Miagani Island is barely different from Bleak Island and they're both pretty generic, but Founders Island is a bit more unique and I'll go over it in more detail when it comes time to actually go there. For now, we return to the Clock Tower.
Clock Tower? That's not very scary. Oh god!
Batman drops down and suddenly he's inside the Gordon residence, reliving Joker's Killing Joke reenactment as he paralyzes Barbara. Fortunately, they cut out the sexual assault he committed right afterward. Instead, he leaves behind the message, "This is what happens when you drag your friends into this crazy little game of ours," a Joker quote that has stuck with me since this game came out. With a cleared head, Batman reveals Barbara's alliance to the Caped Crusader, which goes as well as you'd expect. Aw man, if only Batman had some top secret underground bunker located outside city limits that Barbara could have operated out of instead. Batman scans the camera footage in order to get a lead on Barbara's location, and as he heads off to follow the trail, we get another great Joker line.
I mean, I had no idea she worked for you when I shot her. I just got lucky, seriously. I was aiming for her head.
As much as I hate Joker being there, I can't deny that he has some golden lines throughout. His trail is interrupted by a bomb being embedded into the city, unlocking the Campaign for Disarmament side mission, where you go around and destroy all the bombs around the city by loading them with viruses and fighting off a small army of drones while unable to leave a certain area. As you may be able to tell, it gets repetitive fast. The trail continues onto Miagani Island, prompting Batman to crash the militia's base at Grand Avenue Station to regain control of the bridges and to bring the Batmobile onto the island. In doing so, he encounters the first drone enemy. The drones will scan around and notify enemies if Batman is spotted and attack him. They aren't a huge threat, but make sure you know where they are. Speaking of people that aren't a huge threat,
forget Scarecrow. It's time to face your one true nemesis, Batman.
Oh dear, is that who I think it is?
Enigma. Contact me when you're ready with the bridge.
Riddle me this. Why would a Batman visit an abandoned orphanage?
Eddie, sweetie, you've confused me with Robin. The big guy and I aren't all that close.
It's finally time to go over Riddler's revenge. He has kidnapped Catwoman and locked a bomb collar around her neck. In order to free her, Batman has to complete a series of Batmobile Riddler puzzles because of course they're fucking centered around the Batmobile. Half of them are puzzles and half of them are races. They aren't locked behind how many trophies you've collected like the Enigma machine was, but you can't access any on Founders Island for quite a bit longer, and you have to do them in a forced order. Side note, Catwoman's model is a huge upgrade from before. Like, she's actually cute now and looks like a real person. But don't be fooled, there are still Riddler trophies to collect and riddles to scan. They've been scaled down from 400 to a much more reasonable 243, but the average difficulty of the puzzles to obtain them has been noticeably increased. Also, all of Riddler's riddles rhyme now, so that's cool. There's also building-specific destructibles, militia shields in the overworld, and rioters with bombs in them that you have to disable with a shock. Also, for the first time, Riddler's crap isn't all over the map from the beginning. He actually sends his robot army out to place more as the game progresses, which I think is cool, even if it is forced backtracking. Collecting all of them lets you finally beat the fuck out of the Riddler in a giant mech suit by mostly fighting his robot minions because Rocksteady forgot what good boss fights are. Back on the trail after another distraction with the bridges lowered, Batman discovers that the vehicle Oracle was in crashed and she tossed an encrypted chip to give away the Arkham Knight's location. And while Lucius decrypts it, Alfred informs the Dark Knight of 2 more side quests. Gotham on Fire, which sees the return of Firefly in one of the worst side quests in the series, as you just chase him in the Batmobile 3 different times, and Heir to the Cowl, which sees the return of Azrael as he expresses desire to take up the mantle of Gotham's protector, leading to a series of combat simulations where you aren't allowed to get hit. Are you noticing a theme? All of these side quests are just doing one thing over and over and over again. At least with the Azrael one, you get a cool branching decision at the end after finding out that the Order of Saint Dumas implanted secret messages in his brain to kill Batman, where you either attempt to kill Batman and get arrested, or break the sword and renounce them. On the subject of side quests, one of the final Season Pass DLCs was the Season of Infamy pack, which released 4 new side quests. Wonderland, which sees the Mad Hatter return in an attempt to mind control Batman by trapping him in a pop-up book recounting the events of each game. Shadow War, which focuses on a barely alive Ra's al Ghul in a civil war in the League of Assassins led by his other daughter Nyssa. Beneath the Surface, which has Batman and Nightwing investigating the crashed Iron Heights prison blimp housing a much more mutated Killer Croc, and In From the Cold, which tells the story of Mr. Freeze losing Nora and her actually being freed from her chamber, ending in a bittersweet moment where they ride off on their boat, both destined to die sooner rather than later. Literally, all of the side quests in this are better than the ones in the base game, and it's not even close. Ha! There's one more side quest introduced, Creature of the Night, in which Batman discovers the Man-Bat to be a crazed Dr. Kirk Langstrom, who he then cures. Fun fact, you can kinda play this side quest over again on Halloween. Back to the base game, Batman is able to discover that the Arkham Knight is currently in the Miagani tunnels and gets to choose an upgrade for the Batmobile. These will appear sporadically throughout the game. Increasing the weapons generator allows for more special attacks, the CPU virus lets you hack a drone to your side, and later the EMP does exactly what it sounds like. Batman enters the tunnels and...
Hey, I haven't heard from Barbara for a while. Is she okay?
She's fine. She's working on something for me. It's important.
But she's safe, right?
Don't worry, Tim. Just keep working on that cure.
What is up with Batman's complete refusal to get any sort of assistance from the people he trained to help him? If he's worried for their safety, that just shows a lack of faith in them and his own fucking training skills. And Bruce lying to Tim for no good fucking reason about Barbara is one of the many examples of Batman acting like a right dick to anyone and everyone all game for no justifiable reason. As he progresses, Batman gets jumped by the Arkham Knight, who knows just the weak point to shoot in his suit before leaving, but not before saying Batman is better than he remembers. The Arkham Knight seemingly escapes in an armored personnel carrier, so Batman chases it down and destroys it, only to find a regular militia member with a voice modulator. He then interrogates him in the most badass way to learn that the Knight has gone to visit the Penguin, who uses the company North Refrigeration to run guns all across the city. As Batman goes to meet up with Nightwing, who has coincidentally been tracking North Refrigeration for a while now, Alfred informs him that there are more APCs in the city, setting up the armored and dangerous side quest in which you chase them all down.
Still lurking around on rooftops.
You shouldn't have come here. Not tonight.
Batman is all too eager to refuse anything that will make his night easier, so Nightwing gives him the new Disruptor and heads off. The Disruptor can now be upgraded to disrupt a large number of things, and I highly recommend upgrading it as much as possible, especially against medics. It can also be used to track vehicles, because that's a feature weapons jammers have. Batman follows the van back to Penguin, who tells him that the Knight has gone off to see the CEO of Stagg Enterprises, Simon Stagg. It's also here where we get our first taste of dual combat, as you are freely able to switch between Batman and Nightwing and even perform dual takedowns. Destroying the weapons cache unlocks the Gunrunner side quest, in which you do the same fucking thing a couple more times until you have to save Nightwing, and Batman tells him this is the end because I'm pretty sure he wants to lose. Anyway, Simon Stagg is hiding aboard his airship, which has been tethered with help from a militia watchtower, which sets up the Occupy Gotham side quest where you destroy all the watchtowers, which is probably the most diverse non-Riddler side quest. This is also the introduction to Detective Mode scanners, which locate Batman's position if he uses Detective Mode for too long. It's pretty fun to stand right behind them, though.
Got a lock, he's right behind me.
To enter the airship, Batman retrieves the remote hacking device, which is just a cryptographic sequencer with a new name for no reason. This is the first main explorable interior of the game, and we're like, what, 20-25 minutes into the video? And the main gimmick is hacking the ship's controls to tilt it and progress. Yay, gravity puzzles. Batman saves Stag from getting his shit rocked, then has a fear gas episode that prevents him from stopping Stag from being taken to Airship 2, because they just decided to forego the amazing fear toxin hallucination sequences in Asylum in favor of more Joker, because what the fuck else would you expect from writers who run around like chickens with their heads cut off if Joker isn't involved in every single aspect of the story somehow? Batman progresses further into the airship to disable the other airship's turrets and allow him to progress onto the second airship, where he learns that Stag has been working with Scarecrow to perfect his toxin and create something called the Cloudburst, which isn't fully charged yet. Since Batman is a fucking idiot, he can't figure out what the man who just tried to detonate a massive chemical bomb that would cover the entire East Coast a couple hours ago created something called the Cloudburst for, and tries to confront him about it in Scarecrow's second physical appearance. Is it technically his third, too? Your choice is always wrong, leading to another fear toxin injection and yet another total lack of cool hallucinations in favor of Joker imagery and creepy words. But it's enough for Scarecrow to escape with the Cloudburst.
How does it feel to see your city on the brink of ruin? Your friends in the clutches of death? You stretched yourself too far this time, Batman. And now your failure is all but complete.
He wouldn't have stretched himself too thin if he bothered to accept any of the help that was offered him multiple times! Batman rushes to the penthouse where she's being held and...
Won't get me. I won't let you get me.
You will bring death to all who follow you.
Oh no. I totally believe she's dead. It's not like this villain can cause hallucinations or anything that could explain the situation very easily. Being in the penthouse reminds Batman that Poison Ivy was immune to Scarecrow's toxin, so he returns to GCPD and gets her to agree to help him stop Scarecrow and the Cloudburst, which is, and you'll never believe this, a mass dispersal device for his fear toxin from destroying all the plants in Gotham. But before they can leave, there's a new drone type on the scene. Cobra Tanks. I haven't been mentioning all the different drone types because, frankly, I don't give a damn, but Cobra Tanks get a very special fuck you.
What are you gonna do here? Honestly, tell me, what the hell are you gonna do? All right, by the time, you're gonna panic, and by the time the police come, I'm gonna be in the underbrush. What are you gonna do here? Tell me, you have very limited options.
It's basically Predator sections in the fucking Bat Tank, as you have to sneak up from behind and shoot their exhaust port without being spotted. And they are never on their own like this beyond this point. There's always at least 3 to 5 of the fuckers, and they always stay close to each other. They grind the pace of this gameplay to a halt and only continue to prove that Bat Tank gameplay single-handedly sinks this game the most. Batman brings Ivy to the Botanical Gardens to revive one of Gotham's oldest plants in an effort to develop a natural counter to Scarecrow's toxin, but she needs another plant in order for it to be effective. And while Batman waits for Lucius to magically conjure up a gadget that locates said plant, Alfred informs him that Two-Face is robbing a bank, setting up the Two-Faced Bandit side quest, which is both fun and terrible. With blaring alarms in the banks, Batman's priorities switch from stealth to speed as he needs to take out a certain amount of thugs before they stop attempting to rob the bank and focus on taking him out, where it then turns into a regular Predator encounter. But the third and final one is total ass garbage because iconic Batman villain Two-Face goes down like a regular schmuck thug with no fanfare. In order to properly scan Gotham for the Cloudburst, Batman decides to take out the long-range missile launcher on Founders Island, which first involves destroying the 2 radar towers protecting it. Founders Island is currently being renovated, so there's a dirty and crumbling lower section and a high-end modern commercial section that are occasionally very annoying to traverse between, especially when going fast. It is also the introduction to the Own the Road side quest, in which Batman has to clear all the road checkpoints that are very annoying when you're trying to chase them down. And on the subject of annoying interruptions...
Of course. Tell me what.
Henry!
That's enough from you! Well, look who's too late to save the day. How's it going, Batbrain? It's been a while.
A part of me really thinks that they only brought in the Joker infected because they had no idea how to use Harley without some sort of Joker involvement.
Oh, I told you we should have butchered that bunch of second-rate tribute acts. They'd better not kill Robin, Bats. I had the idea first.
Harley has changed the voice code at the movie studios to her own voice, so Batman uses the voice modulator he stole from the APC driver to steal Harley's voice. I don't think that's how that works, but sure. The biggest benefit to the voice synthesizer is that you can lure Predator enemies exactly where you want them for takedowns. He makes his way inside and...
Ah, memories. You, me, and a ward full of psychotic killers. You've never felt so at home, have you?
I remember when these games were good too. He saves Robin from getting his bird behind beaten and finds that each infected is located in a different soundstage. Now, you may be wondering why Batman set up shop in an abandoned movie studio of all places.
Nice place you got here. I think my Joker would have liked it. Kind of place he would have picked.
The dynamic duo retrieves Christina Bell from the Haunted House studio in, I believe, the only dual Predator section. Then Joker randomly mentions Jason Todd, and Batman has a hallucination of Joker torturing Jason in Arkham. And if you know how stories go, they never include backstories if it's not going to be important later. Huh. I wonder if there's a character with an unknown identity that happens to be very similar to a character Jason Todd becomes. Albert King goes down in a boss fight that is once again all about fighting everyone but the boss and only occasionally paying attention to them, and...
What do we have here, then?
The only important part of this scene is that Joker brands Jason with a J. So at least he doesn't have to admit it stands for Joker. And if you can't see where this is going, you're lying. They then take down Johnny Charisma on the old game show set where Johnny, which Batman hallucinates to be Joker, sings to Batman while Robin disarms Johnny's bombs. After Charisma's performance bombs, Robin runs into Harley herself on the way back to bring him to his cell. I know this game has no real boss fights, but surely one of the 3 characters to be in every game that isn't Batman or Joker can get some respect.
This time for real is real. This time is it. This done. We're everywhere. How many times?
For those wondering, 2 characters outside of Batman and Joker appear in every Arkham game. Harley Quinn and Commissioner Gordon. Counting DLC adds Killer Croc to that list. Whatever, let's just get this animal back to his cell.
Robin, prep the cell.
No, no, no!
Don't move, Robin. You killed them, didn't you, Henry?
Oh, Bats! You're so easy. Desperate to see the good in people.
I actually didn't mind this twist at first, though it begs the question of how in the fuck Henry had the time to reprogram Batman's security after the game continuously stated that Robin was constantly there. Then Henry threatens to shoot Harley if Batman doesn't do as he says, and apparently Batman is like me and forgot the reverse battering exists because he actually listens to Henry. Then Henry shoots Charisma to purify the gene pool.
I changed my mind. Kill him!
Now that's unexpected. You're gonna be spectacular.
Yup. Batman is the 5th Joker infected. And I know what you're thinking. Wasn't Batman cured of the Joker's poison? Didn't I play a whole game where that was the main plot? Yes. Yes, you did. And the writers make no effort to explain this. With this revelation, the writers have now invalidated every important aspect of the A-plot of Arkham City. Joker's death was invalidated the second he became ever-present, and the whole story about the cure doesn't matter now because it ended up being useless. Batman ended up in the exact same spot as the 4 people who got infected and weren't cured. At first, I assumed that Batman constantly hallucinating the Joker was a result of his infected blood mixing with the fear toxin, but the novelizations reveal that the fear toxin alone is making Batman see the Joker, means that he is just also turning into the Joker on top of that, which I don't think Joker foresaw happening. Why is he so entwined into the game he's not even alive for? Anyway, Bruce agrees to get locked up and let Tim take his place, and they both take off their masks and use their real names despite supervillain Harley Quinn being locked up a couple feet away, and Joker lets Batman out of his cell somehow for the conclusion of the Jason Todd clunky exposition trilogy. Joker gets Jason to admit to hating Batman on camera, then shoots Jason before he can reveal Batman's identity and says the thing.
You've seen what happens when you drag your friends into this crazy little game of ours.
And suddenly we're back to before Bruce entered the cell, where he pulls the ultimate dick move that fully makes me despise this version of the Batman character.
What the hell are you doing?
The right thing. Trust me.
I've gone crazy! Listen to me! We can help you! You don't need to do this! Alfred! Alfred? You son of a bitch! You cut my communications!
I get that Batman is afraid he'll lose all those he cares about and everything, but how in the fuck is locking him in a cell a better option? At least if he's out of a cell, he can protect himself. And since he isn't needed in here anymore, Batman could have just sent him to GCPD. Or, I don't know, actually gotten his help taking down Scarecrow. This game is so determined to force Batman to complete a superhuman amount of tasks in one night that he has to act like an irredeemable dick for no reason to all of the people he trusts and trained to join his crusade. Also, this whole thing with Harley and the Joker is just a glorified side quest masquerading as a main quest. Why do I say that? Because it doesn't at all relate to Scarecrow and the Arkham Knight and takes place while Batman is waiting for something else, like all the actual side quests do. Speaking of side quests, remember when I said in the Arkham City video that the whole identity thief side mission leading to Hush would ultimately go nowhere? Well, welcome to nowhere! Lucius has gone silent, and by checking up on him, Batman learns that Tommy Elliott has shown up looking like Bruce Wayne to steal all of Wayne's money. Batman confronts him, reveals himself as Bruce Wayne for reasons known only to him, and Hush goes down. That's it. That's all a villain who had an entire side quest in a previous game just to set up this appearance gets. Batman investigates some seismic activity near the Botanical Gardens, and you get no points for guessing that it's poison ivy related. And then Alfred finally locates the cloudburst.
Ivy, get down!
Welcome to Gotham, the city of fear.
Bit too late, Alfred! This is immediately my favorite section of the game because the Bat Tank has been disabled and I can forget about its miserable existence. So of course the first order of business is paying another visit to our good friend Simon Stagg to get a part that immediately fixes the Batmobile and traps us in it for the rest of the Cloudburst's existence. Oh, it was kind of fun while it lasted, I guess. To drain the fear toxin out of Gotham, Batman heads into the tunnels beneath the city to locate another giant ancient plant. Upon doing so, it's time for the poorest excuse for a boss fight ever with not a single redeemable quality, as the Arkham Knight challenges Batman to a fight with his Cloudburst tank. First, you have to take out the Legion of Cobra Tanks, which I've already said are annoying. Then you have to sneak up on the Cloudburst tank in its 360-degree rotating vision to get a shot in, then drive away from its attacks as fast as possible until the overcharge drains, all while the camera is annoyingly zoomed far out, making precision turns impossible. And you have to do that at least 4 times, one on every side of the tank, and that's not counting any times you get spotted. Then the final stage is just Batman bullet hell again. With the Cloudburst destroyed, a conveniently timed hallucination allows the Knight to flee without Batman learning his identity, and then Poison Ivy uses plant powers to drain the toxin from the city, which kills her. And more importantly, leaves behind an annoying amount of pollen. Yeah, I don't really have any strong opinions about Poison Ivy's death, it just kinda happens. Speaking of death, remember that other girl that's definitely not still alive? Well, her father somehow found that Scarecrow has a base in the old Killinger department store, bringing us to the third and final interior of the game as Batman ventures there to save Gordon. And of course, it starts by being all about the Batmobile and lowering down a drill tunnel, leading right into the best Arkham Knight related thing in the game, as he literally resurfaces by attacking Batman in some monstrous excavator thing that Batman has to destroy by luring him down a series of tunnels laced with explosives. After that, Batman tries to escape the tunnel.
I did it! Cornered you! Done what no one else could! All these years, all your enemies. None of them understands you like I do. You think Crane found Oracle on his own? I'm the one who told him about Barbara! Me! I told you I knew everything about you, didn't I? Don't worry, Bruce. I kept some secrets to myself.
Vindication!
That was very satisfying. You know what's not satisfying? This.
Who are you?
You really have no idea, do you, Bruce?
Jason.
Oh look, the Arkham Knight is the first person everyone immediately assumed he was. What a great and shocking twist. Seriously, why did they market the Arkham Knight as a wholly original villain? He's just a slightly more edgy red hood who wears blue instead. And that doesn't even last. His helmet gets busted and he immediately puts on a red one. Yeah, this conversation basically boils down to Batman being like, Joker, prove to me you are dead. And Jason being like,
nice argument, Senator. Why don't you back it up with a source?
And Joker being like,
my source is that I made it the fuck up.
And before I dive further into the biggest disappointment in the series, why didn't Jason tell Scarecrow who Batman is? He was ready and willing to tell the Joker. Whatever, this whole character was a bust, and this perfectly exemplified in this boss fight. It is terrible in every regard. He's supposed to be a darker reflection of Batman, someone who knows his every move and how to counter it. Two equals where the only edge one has is their willingness to kill the other. We should have gotten a merging of the Mr. Freeze boss fight from Arkham City and the Deathstroke boss fight from Arkham Origins. A fight that pushes every aspect of Batman's combat and Predator abilities to the test against an opponent who knows him better than anyone. But no, it's just 4 ways of fighting faceless militia goons, including ones with optic reflection armor that make them invisible in detective mode, and occasionally confronting the Knight and hearing him sound like a whiny teenager whose parents don't understand him. Oh, and remember what Jason said when he revealed his identity? That is how Commissioner Gordon learns who Batman is. He just happened to be there for a conversation that mentioned it. Kind of a step down from that great moment in The Dark Knight Rises, wouldn't you say? And now it's time to head to the rooftop for Scarecrow's 3rd in-person appearance.
Dad!
Barbara, are you alright? Did he hurt you?
What are you doing?
Oh wow, what a shock. Certainly didn't see that one coming from a mile away the second it happened. For some reason, Gordon trusts Scarecrow more than Batman and agreed to lure Batman here in exchange for Barbara. And then he's shocked when shooting Batman doesn't get his daughter back. It gets him captured and her thrown off a rooftop right into the arms of the obviously still alive Batman. And as Scarecrow flies off with Gordon in a helicopter, Batman just decides not to have Alfred track or something. This happens. Isn't one of Lucius Fox's first lines in the game about how to be careful with the Batmobile because it's one of a kind? But hey, I like the look of this one better.
Remember the time you carried me like that? I don't, because I was dead.
Batman gets Barbara set up at the GCPD, took him long enough to figure out that was a good place to keep his allies safe, and restores the clock tower's computer so she can track her father. And while she does that, she sets up the last side quest, Lamb to the Slaughter, in which Jack Ryder gets captured by the role model of the Far Cry 5 antagonist, Deacon Blackfire. And this side quest is terrible! It's just one timed fight. That's it. And on the subject of terrible things, with the Arkham Knight defeated, the militia has a new commander.
It's good to see you again, Batman.
And how does this rematch go? It's just a repeat of the Cloudburst tank fight! The worst fight in the game, and you get to do it twice! Deathstroke went from one of the best fights in Arkham Origins and one of the best fights in the series to this! Upon returning to GCPD, Scarecrow decides to launch an all-out assault in hopes of destroying the building and everyone inside, leading to the one and only time in this game that Batman accepts help as he and Oracle take down the massive drone force attacking the precinct. Oracle will hack into random drones for a number of different effects. She could turn it into an EMP, make it explode, or take control of it to aid Batman. And it's the one tank fight I actually like because it's actually challenging. There's 60 of the things and you're in a small area, but there's also the added assistance from Oracle that adds a new layer of gameplay and makes it fun. And when that's all said and done, Batman learns that Gordon's voice was used to access the movie studios. And remember who's locked up in there and completely defenseless? That's right, Harley Quinn, who witnessed Scarecrow enter and take Robin, which is entirely Batman's fault for being a massive dick. Also, why didn't Scarecrow let Harley out? He had enough time to paint his logo, surely he could have pressed a button. But hey, at least Barbara exposes Batman for the fucking moron he is in this game.
You left him in a cell.
He wasn't safe.
And he is now? He'd take a bullet for you, Bruce. We all would. But you left him defenseless. You didn't even give him a choice.
In order to get Robin back, Batman has to submit to Scarecrow, losing his utility belt and being loaded into a truck where he hears that someone is tracking his movements before getting another fear juicing. This brings him to Crime Alley in a fight with the Joker where all the Joker takedowns are just murder! Why do they keep trying to get the audience to ask if Batman really did kill Joker? He didn't. Not only did Joker do it to himself, they explicitly had to make Joker's death not a direct result of Batman's actions. Oh, and you'll never guess where Scarecrow's base of operations is. Why that wasn't the first place he checked, I have no idea. Not once did Batman ever consider that the man obsessed with the wounds he sustained on Arkham Island and planned this whole night as revenge for what happened to him on Arkham Island would be hiding out on Arkham Island. And then Scarecrow forces Gordon to unmask Batman, and I do not care at this point because the ending was obvious the moment the game started. Then we forget all about Scarecrow and focus on Joker for the rest of the main game, because did you expect anything else? We get an extended hallucination where Joker murders a bunch of people, including Penguin, Riddler, and Two-Face, until Batman fights back from poison-induced mental illness out of sheer willpower and exposes Joker's fear of being forgotten, and it ends with Batman saying the thing.
I am vengeance. I am the Knight. I am Batman.
With Batman's fear of becoming the Joker locked away in his mind asylum, like Sherlock's mind palace but stupid, he no longer fears anything, so Scarecrow is just gonna kill him. You couldn't have shown up earlier, like maybe before Batman got exposed? Scarecrow gets a taste of his own medicine and is taken down, leaving Batman no choice but to initiate the Nightfall Protocol, where he and Alfred fake their deaths. Completing all of the side quests gets a bonus scene showing that Batman has begun using Scarecrow's fear toxin to keep people afraid of him. But we're not done yet. Did you forget about the DLCs? The first one is Catwoman's Revenge, taking place almost immediately after the events of the game that follows Catwoman as she infiltrates Riddler's secret toy shop hideout to destroy his computer, thus destroying all his robots and all his crypto. The next one is the Red Hood story pack that I mentioned all that time ago, in which Red Hood goes after Black Mask, and his gameplay is fun, though I don't appreciate the DLC ending with Black Mask dying. GCPD Lockdown centers on Nightwing trying to stop Penguin from escaping GCPD lockup, and Flip of a Coin centers on Robin taking down Two-Face after he successfully escapes GCPD lockup. And with that, our journey with the Arkham series has gone out with a whimper. I really wanted this game to be amazing. All of the advertising hyped this game up to supernatural proportions. I love Scarecrow, Batman is my favorite superhero, and this was the first and so far only game I ever actually waited in line for to pick up at midnight. But it just wasn't, and I can boil it down to two main reasons that should be obvious: the writing and the Batmobile. Let's start with the easy one. The Batmobile was the most hyped new mechanic in the game, yet through sheer overuse and the Bat Tank transformation that completely goes against the core foundation of the Batman character, it became the biggest anchor weighing the game down. And then there's the writing. It's just bad. It's not the spectacularly irredeemable dumpster fire that was the script to the Last of Us sequel that never happened. It's just frustrating, especially given how much potential was squandered. Not one character came out of this game looking better than when they entered, and that's a terrible taste to leave in players' mouths. Batman is a mean-spirited dickhead who is borderline suicidal all game for no reason other than the writers needing him to be to make the ending make sense. Scarecrow does nothing but talk about how cool fear is and occasionally release insanely complicated plots for Batman to stop. The Arkham Knight goes from cool and mysterious to disappointing and annoying, and then there's the other villains. Popular villains like Harley Quinn, Two-Face, and Penguin are completely cast aside, and the game would be barely any different without them. Characters that had entire sections of Arkham City dedicated to building them up for this game, like Hush and Azrael, ended up being entirely superfluous to the game's events, feeling like they were only included because they had to be to have at least some payoff. It's not all terrible though. I think Riddler and Catwoman continue to be well written, though Riddler becoming an expert mechanic all of a sudden was a bit strange, and forcing Batman to do races doesn't seem like his thing. I also liked the inclusion of Professor Pig, as that genuine mystery of confronting a total unknown is hard to create in Batman stories now thanks to him having so many iconic villains. The one final thing I want to touch on is Rocksteady's decision to remove standard boss fights as they believed they burdened the previous games. Did they make the same games I played? Sure, not all the boss fights in Asylum were great, but they were all memorable, and City vastly improved them with great fights against Ra's al Ghul and Mr. Freeze. Getting rid of them in Night was an awful decision as it led to no actual fights against the villains. They all either go down in one hit, cutscenes, or generic combat scenarios. It's such a lackluster end to Batman's relationships with all of these characters. The final score for Batman Arkham Knight is a 6 out of 10. You know a series is an all-timer when the lowest scoring game is still above average. There are things to enjoy in this game. Combat and Predator sections are more fun and smooth than ever. Gliding and driving around in expansive Gotham is a lot of fun, and this is still one of the best looking games ever made. But it's heavily let down by the story and writing threading these things together, poor gameplay choices, and an empty feeling map that lacked the depth and focus of the Asylum, the city, or even Origins as Gotham. The game definitely could have benefited from adding the random crimes and district-specific murders from Origins just to make Gotham feel more alive. Anyway, next week is the mid-season finale, and believe me when I say it's must-see. I eagerly await your check-in into the SmackDown Hotel, and I hope to see you there.